And honestly, like I feel how I used to feel with Tom Brady's receivers. Like it almost doesn't matter who's at receiver as long as they get open. Josh Allen's going to get you. And man, we talk about the game winning drive with the game breaker tush push and then the tush push for the win. I mean, he had to take the lead twice before that and let him down. This is going to sound like so much hate, and I swear it's not. Welcome back to the Warner Brothers podcast. I'm Kyle, joined today by Timmy G. Tim, what's up, man?
The usual. It's actually such a shame that we only have 3 weeks of football left, spread across a month, but I don't count the Pro Bowl when it comes to football. So it's
very depressing.
Weeks.
I don't think I've watched the Pro Bowl in a solid,
I don't think I've ever watched it. I honestly don't think I've ever put the channel on the Pro Bowl.
It's a good life choice to not put it on. I definitely probably put it on. Like high school was probably the last time. So we're probably talking like closer to 15 years was the last time I've at least peeped it. Now it's just like dodgeball and shit like that, right?
Yeah, they do a bunch of skills challenges. I think they play flag football. But yeah, you're right. It might be dodgeball now or something. But I know they do a ton of skill challenges like obstacle courses and strength feats and stuff like that. But
well, Tim, last time we recorded Wednesday, we talked about Mike Tomlin. We talked about the firing of John Harbaugh, which would have been last week. And I'd say probably 2 hours after we recorded, news came down that your team, the New York Football Giants, hired one, John Harbaugh. What was your immediate reaction? And now with a few days to reflect, how do you feel about it overall?
I'll start with the few days to reflect because he still is not under contract. Like it is still like an agreed upon. They both said yes. The contract has not been signed.
Interesting.
And he's there. The Athletic was reporting today that they don't think they're not going to make an agreement, but they still got to work a lot of stuff out. He had quite a few demands. His contract was rumored to be $100 million for 5 years. And one of his demands was that he needed a big budget to bring in a bunch of coaches. Todd Monken being one of them as OC was the speculation there. So I think they're just working out all those kinks and whatnot. But it would absolutely not surprise me if something did go wrong and he was not the coach of the New York Giants. That's an exactly Giant thing to happen. So it would not shock me at all. I would be like, yeah, we probably deserve that, I guess, for whatever gods we pissed off at whatever point in life. But I think it can go one of two ways. Here's what I actually think. Next year, at this point, we will not be saying that John Harbaugh was like the best hire. He won't be the coach of the year candidate or something like that. I think it'll be somebody that we have no idea about, kind of like how when the Rams hired Sean McVay, it was just a guy that got promoted. They did their research on him and nailed his interviews, and it worked out. I think Harbaugh has a good chance to do really well. I think the problem is people are like, yeah, with this roster, they're a 10-win football team. It's the Giants, man. Things are going to go wrong. Something's going to happen. Like, it could just be an absolute shit show. So I'm like, still, like, I'm happy we got a coach. I do think this was like probably the best coach of this cycle. But like I said, I think at this point next year, we're going to be like, oh, actually Clint Kubiak was the dream hire. That's who they should have went and got, or somebody like that, that we just weren't expecting. And they just make a big splash.
I think at least it will bring a sense of solidness, a sense of professionalism to your team that you haven't had probably since the Eli era. So in that sense, I do think it was the right hire. I mean, the Giants are a blue blood, and they just have not handled themselves as such, again, since the Eli era. So in a way, yes, this is a home run, but I am very interested. I've said this before. I'm a big fan of both Jim and John Harbaugh. Like, it's hard to have good coaches in this league, and they're both good coaches. Um, that being said, he is mid 60s, maybe early 60s. You really never know, right? It's not Lamar. It's not Derrick Henry. It is a young, talented team, but we haven't really seen him with a young team like this in a while, a team that's up on the rise. So I'm very interested to see how he handles it. He's obviously going to have a lot of control. Um, it's interesting you mentioned Monken. He's apparently interviewing for the Cleveland Browns head coaching candidacy, which I did not realize. I guess he had a second interview. So that'll be interesting and probably beneficial, honestly, to Jackson Dart and Scattaboo and Neighbors if Monken does get the head coaching job. I
He
would.
would he would do wonders with Dart, I think.
You think
I
so?
think that would be a very good pairing. Running an offense with Lamar, Dart scrambles at a high level. He
Mm,
runs really well. They'll probably be a little bit more harsh on him on like taking big hits and stuff like that. So maybe he fixes that problem. I think it would be a um, good fit.
true.
I do have a really random question. I don't know
Sure.
how on board. So coming into this year,
Mhm.
the Patriots get Mike Vrabel, a rising star in Drake May we saw last year, and all of a sudden he's MVP level Drake May. Harbaugh goes to the Giants, a rising star in Jackson Dart, somebody that I think could win Offensive Rookie of the Year, wouldn't surprise me. I think he's played a lot better than people think he has. They just see the 4-win record and they say, oh, he was trash. But I think Jackson Dart actually played really, really well this year. Would it really surprise you if he was in MVP talks next year with a
Yes, it
Malik
would.
Neighbors? Really?
It would. Well, it depends. It depends. If he gets the most out of Jackson Dart and it looks something like, early Lamar Jackson or any one of these running guys or even Jaden Daniels, sure. Um, my thing is with Jackson Dart that I would point to is his accuracy, which Drake
It,
May, he's got a high completion percentage this year. Like I expected Drake May to like throw some picks this year, have some dumb mistakes, and that was just completely eliminated. And I don't know where the
mhm.
hell that came from. I don't know if that's a combination of him and McDaniels, um, which that is possible with these running quarterbacks. Like running quarterbacks, if you're playing second and four all the time, that automatically eliminates mistakes, And with him, like you said, you're worried about the hits he takes, the gambles he takes when he's on the scramble. Um, so I'd have to see him more in action because it seemed like once he came back from that concussion, they kind of put the handcuffs on him. They kind of kept him in the pocket. They didn't want him running, and he was inaccurate. So he wasn't really playing his game. He obviously wasn't going to be under that coaching staff with Mike Kafka. So yeah, I'd be interested with a full year what that actually looks like. Because he's definitely a baller. He's definitely got potential, MVP potential. Who knows? Who knows? But then again, like you said, we wouldn't have said that about Drake May last year. So you never know.
Exactly.
But
I
I'm
think I had seen a video and they were kind of just going over Jackson Dart and how they potentially did think he could be in that conversation next year.
hmm,
This wasn't even like a Giants page. This was just a random sports page. And they brought up the fact that he finished the year with 24 total touchdowns and only 7 picks. That's a solid ratio. He didn't even play all the games. I think he only played in 12 because he didn't start till week 4. And then there was the game against Detroit that he missed, and I'm not sure if he missed one after that or not. So that's a
it seemed like he
pretty good.
missed at least 3 games there, right? Because Jameis
I
started
thought so. Yeah.
2 or 3 at least. So
Right. So say he did play 12 games. That sounds about right. Might be 13 either way. 24 to 7, a good ratio there. And they also brought up that 5 of his games were against top 5 defensive units.
mm,
And then if you include those 5, 10 of his games were against top 10 defensive units, and he was still able to do all of that. Balled out
got
against the Broncos,
I
the
was gonna say you got a big
Eagles.
on the Broncos for sure. Like that
Hmm.
was kind of a standout game, regardless of how it ended.
And he did all that in spite of his head coach getting fired halfway through the season. I thought he overachieved. So it wouldn't shock me But I would still put it at like a 1% chance. It would still be like unlikely that this happens, but it would be like the dream scenario. Harbaugh comes in, builds a culture, fixes things. Monken comes in, offense looks good, defense looks good. He's efficient. 30 touchdowns to 10 picks. It could get him in the conversation, I think.
I'll say this, man. Depending on what happens with the Eagles, like the NFC East could be wide open. This was the first year that we had a repeat division winner in that division in like what 15 or 20 years.
Yeah, it was
Um,
like 2 decades, I think.
yeah, and none of us like how the Eagles looked the second half of the year.
Oh,
Um,
I have a take on the Eagles.
Love it, love it. Cowboys, I mean, at the least competitive, we know that. If they round out that defense, they could be more than that. And the Commanders were in the NFC Championship game last year, and the Giants already got the talent. Now they got a real coach. Like, I'm insanely excited for what the NFC East is going to look like next year. That's going to be probably one of the most competitive divisions in the entire NFL. You want to get your Eagles take off right now before we get started?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. I feel like this is just how history works. It's just
Okay.
repeating itself here. So, I think the Eagles will sign one of these head coaches to be their offensive coordinator. I think it'll likely be Mike McDonald or Mike McDaniels.
Hmm.
But wouldn't rule out like Stefanski, or maybe they just poach like Kubiak or something like that. And then the offense is going to look good again, and they're going to go to a Super Bowl next year. I think that's what
It's
happens to the
possible.
Eagles. The defense is good enough. I don't see them being able to trade AJ Brown. If they trade him, they take a $42 million cap hit of dead cap. So I just don't think that's realistic. So I think they run it back with a very talented offense, and then with the right offensive coordinator, it works again. And because this is exactly what happened, they went to the Super Bowl and lost both their coordinators, first round exit. Then they went to the Super Bowl and won. Then they lost both their coordinators, or one coordinator, and they first round exit. Here we are again. They're going to get one of these desired head coaching job just to fill in as the offensive coordinator, and it's going to work out.
Mike McDaniel in that offense would be scary, like legitimately scary. Um, Hurts does need to improve though. I mean, everything we've been saying since preseason is true with him. Like he definitely does not read defenses the way you'd want a now veteran quarterback. He's no longer a young quarterback. I think we can say that. I remember the first year they made it to the Super Bowl. I was like, man, yeah, he's definitely improved from I don't know if that was his second year or his third year, but he's definitely improved from his first year as a starter. Like you could see it. I don't know if you can say the same thing since then, which is fine. Like some mobile quarterbacks, you do need to just kind of dumb things down and kind of simplify things. And Hurts seems to be one of those players. Uh, but man, he seemed to take a step back. I agree with you. If they get Mike McDaniel in there or anybody that's of note at OC, like look out because I mean that defense is there and the talent is all over. And I seem to agree with you. AJ Brown, not only do I see him not getting traded because of the cap hit thing, I also don't think he's that big of a cancer to the locker room because I think it's like just another day for them. You know, it's been like 2 years of this with AJ, and honestly, it could be a lot worse with these receivers. Like he's making a stink on the sideline, but in the locker room, it seems to be okay. I mean, so who the hell knows? Granted, they did have the positivity bunny, but um, yeah, man, I tend to agree with you. The only thing is, I think it's going to be a hell of a lot more competitive, and on top of that, they're going to have the first place schedule again. That's the difference between the last two Super Bowl trips. They had easier schedules, and Hurts is going to have to improve in some form or fashion to where, like, all right, we don't have to just rely on his legs. We don't have to just rely on the tush push. Then the other thing they have going for them, they probably draft better than 98% of the teams in the league, if not every team in the league. So they definitely have that going for them. Um, any other thoughts on any other one of these teams around the NFL? Well, one thing I would say, Tim, I'm surprised more of these hirings or more of these head coaching voids haven't been filled yet. I feel like by now we usually have a lot of them filled, maybe two or three are left, but the majority are still open.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. There's still 8 positions open. Um, I think it's likely that we don't see a good chunk of them filled until post Super Bowl. Typically, it's like the week in between, which this always blows my mind when it happens. But the week in between championship game and Super Bowl, a lot of coaches, offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators will interview for these jobs.
Mm,
on the remaining teams. So
true that.
that's always bothered me because, like, if you're not willing to wait one more week or 2 more weeks to interview me, then you don't deserve me, would be my take.
Right.
Like, if you actually think that I could be a good candidate for that job, you should be willing to wait 2 weeks to get it done, because I should be focusing 100% on playing in the Super Bowl and not interviewing right now. I'm not taking 4 days to fly down there, meet with you guys, prep, interview, fly back while I'm preparing for a Super Bowl. That makes no sense. So I think it'll be February, beginning of February, right after the Super Bowl. We'll probably see 3 or 4 filled that week.
True that. True that. Um, ready for these picks?
Yes, sir.
We shall go in order. We'll go. Obviously, we got Broncos and Bills first. Broncos are a 1.5 point favorite. Bills open as a favorite. Broncos are now favored. This is all these games are interesting, but this game kind of fascinates me because I feel about this game, Tim, much how I felt about Chiefs teams of the past, specifically last year, where I didn't necessarily think they had the talent. I think the Bills certainly have the talent, but I do think the Broncos are the better team here. And if I'm picking them, I'm picking Josh Allen essentially. Um, that being said, on top of all that, Bo Nix can be erratic, can be inconsistent. Uh, but I think by far they got one of the better rosters in the entire league, if not in the AFC. If you're going to say the weaklings, Bo Nix, he can still do some things. So this game fascinates me to say the least. What do you think about this game?
I'm kind of in the same boat. When I first started thinking about it last weekend, I was kind of like, yeah, I'm definitely going to pick the Bills. But they lose 2 wide receivers this weekend. Gabe Davis done for the year, and then I'm blanking on the other guy's name, but he played the
Shavers.
second half. Yeah, he played on a torn ACL. That's wild. Um, so like they just keep.
Wait. He played on a torn ACL?
Yeah, he tore it at the end of the first half. He played like 32 plays in the second half on a torn ACL, and
No,
then got
I
evaluated post game.
no shit. I missed that. He did the
Yeah,
Philip Rivers. He would randomly make plays for these guys too, which is a
yeah,
crazy thing. Like he'd pop up.
exactly. So it's like, really, do you think Khalil Shakir, James Cook, and Brandon Cooks are like enough to get it done against one of the better defenses in the league? Um, it's really tough. They kind of outman them, but it's Josh Allen. I like expect him to be able to win this football game. And then another thing to think about is like the Broncos defense. We kind of always say it's a good defense, and it is. It's definitely a top 10 unit, maybe top 5. Um, if you go back and look, since that Jaguars game, they really haven't been tested. Like they got tested in that game, right? And they let up 34 points. And then they just played a bunch of like cupcake games. Like a couple of them were against backup QBs that they still didn't like completely shut down. They were all like 1-score games. So like it wouldn't surprise me if Josh Allen is just that dude this weekend and exposes them. But I think going into the half, the Denver Broncos will have a 10-point lead. I don't know. I don't know what the score will be, probably like 17-7 or something like that. Uh, but the Buffalo Bills are going to win the game 25-23. They're
Mm,
gonna do what they always do. Uh, Josh Allen also didn't know this. That was his first road win in the playoffs. He's never won a. I think he's
true
only
story.
played in one. He's like always played at home for most of them. But yeah, that was a surprise. But he's gonna get another road win here, because he's Josh freaking Allen, man. That's all I gotta say.
I feel much about this game like I did last week with the Jags. It's like, all right, they got the better team. At this point, I mean, the Jags were the hottest team in the league. And me and you both said, whoever wins this game, we think is going to the Super Bowl. Um, that being said, like I think I said on Wednesday with you and Keenan, if this were the regular season, this exact situation was happening, Broncos at home off a bye, I'm probably just taking the Broncos and not really thinking about it, especially because that was a hell of a game on Sunday that Josh Allen had to play. Like that was a tough game the Bills had to play. Um, Bills are getting Ed Oliver back and Curtis Samuel for whatever that could be worth, right? That's at least a body at receiver.
Gadget receiver Curtis Samuel.
True
He's
that.
going for 2 catches for 90 yards and a touchdown. He's going to do it.
He could play that old school Gabe Davis role. Like, it could happen. And honestly, like, I feel how I used to feel with Tom Brady's receivers. Like, it almost doesn't matter who's at receiver as long as they get open. Josh Allen's going to get you. And man, we talk about the game winning drive with the game breaker tush push and then the tush push for the win. I mean, he had to take the lead twice before that and let him down. Denver is certainly a tough place to play. Buffalo is one of the select teams in the NFL that I don't think would be affected by the altitude, the weather, all that, the crowd noise. They're not going to be affected by any of that. So really, this just comes down to, like, do you think the Bills are good enough to beat a team that's more well-rounded than them? I do. And like you said, it's Josh Allen. Because at the end of the day, if they're going to win this game, I don't think it's a 10-point victory for the Broncos. It would have to be them leading the charge to win the game, which Bo Nix can do. That's the thing. He is dangerous. He can scramble. He is of the game manager mold, but he's a little more dangerous than that. I've said this many times on the podcast. I think if you're going to beat the Broncos, you want to get out ahead first and make them play catch up to try to force Bo Nix into mistakes. So if the Bills started with the ball, put up 7, needless to say, I think they're in a great spot. You add Ed Oliver to that, and if he can actually shore up the run defense a little bit, which can happen with these teams that are shitty at stopping the run. Sometimes that big D tackle, that nose tackle in the middle can just make all the difference. I'm not saying he's going to hold Harvey to under 20 yards here, but he can at least get those stops on second down and force you into a third and long. I think that can happen. So I'm with you here. I'm actually going to go 21-17 Bills. I think it's going to be low scoring, but like you said, man, push comes to shove, 2 minutes left in the game, you need a score. Yeah, I'm going to take Josh Allen over Bosiv Nix. So that's where I'm going. I think it's going to be a fantastic game, though. I think it's going to be another thriller, much like last week with the Jags. Any other final thoughts on that game before we move on to the NFC game?
I heard a stat today that was Bo Nix related. They were saying that he has like pretty much the best pocket in the league when it comes to offensive line protection, but he throws on the run more often than any other quarterback because he'll just think the pressure's there and he'll start scrambling. And then when he throws on the run, he's like one of the least accurate QBs in the league. So
Really?
if Ed Oliver's there to get a little bit of pressure on him, it could wreck the game for them, and Bo Nix could come crumbling down.
That's funny because, like, in my memory of like when Bo Nix seems the most dangerous, it's when he's throwing on the run. So I'd actually think he's like better on the run than in the pocket, but I
I
guess not.
think it's because you see it happen so often
That's
that like
true.
the success is also while he's on the run, but he does it so often that the stat just evens out to being the opposite. But when you see him on red zone, it's because he's always on the run. That's just how
Right.
he is.
And I wouldn't even pin him to be the guy that's most on the run because it seems like Caleb did that more than him. Like, Caleb seemed to be like,
Oh yeah,
he'd be
big
my
time.
number one pick for the guy who's like, oh, I got a clean pocket. Let me act like there's pressure and
Oh
get
my
out of
god.
it.
Caleb Williams, just count the spin moves. Like as soon as somebody starts pushing on an offensive lineman, he's spin moving out of the pocket, trying to like
He's
buy
spamming
time
that
from
shit.
nothing. Yeah, exactly. His line's actually one of the better ones in the league. And yeah, he's always just doing too much.
Cannot wait to talk about this game, Tim. We got the Niners going to the Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks are a 7-point favorite. I think it was 7.5 most this week. So you get the hook taken away there. I mean, you're going to hear me say I'm fascinated. I'm fascinated by all of these games. Actually, probably the least interesting game to me is Pats Texans, funny enough. But I love this game. I think this line's too high, even if you account for the Kittle injury and all the other injuries the Niners might have. How are you feeling about this game? How do you think this game's going to go?
I was much more optimistic following the weekend, but then I really started like thinking on it. And I think there's 2 ways this game could go. Either it's a close game and the 49ers like barely squeak out a win, and it's like a low-scoring, ugly game, or the Seahawks just dominate this game. Um, I saw a stat today. Brock Purdy is 8-0 in Seattle. Never lost in his
No shit.
career. Yeah.
That's crazy. I did not
So
realize that.
that's that's what like, I it's hard for me to say that that stat's going to come to an end. He has been playing really good football. Um, I think I lean on the side where Seattle kind of dominates, and it's just yes, this was like a really good season for the 49ers, barring all of the injuries, and next year they might look really, really good with a lot of these pieces coming back. Do you know if Trent Williams is playing in this game? I
Seems like
think
he
they said
is.
he is, and I
Seems like
think
he
they
is.
said Pearsall is also expected to go.
Mm. He was out
Those,
last week, correct?
yeah, both of them were. So those are two big additions to the offense. Even just Pearsall, he was playing really, really well to start the season. So getting him back would be huge. I just think Seattle's defense is too good. I really do. I think they're too well coached. Um, so for that, I think we'll probably get I'll take Seattle 20-13. I'll put it right on the spread. Give me
So a
a push.
push. We got a
Yeah.
push. Well, I hear everything you're saying, and I tend to agree with you. It doesn't seem likely that the Seahawks would lose coming off a bye week after what they just did to the Niners in Week 18. My thing is coming off that game, which was essentially a playoff game, right? So that's one thing. If you want to pick against the Niners here, say not only are they coming off a tough victory over the Eagles, they're coming off 2 playoff games, A versus the Seahawks, B versus the Eagles, then the Seahawks again. That's a tough road to play. Uh, However, we mentioned this when they played in Week 18. The last time they had matched up was Week 1, right? They play in Week 1. Niners win that game, I think by 1 point. Seahawks had a chance to win. There was, I think, a couple 4th and 1s that they did not go for. They elected to punt, so they easily could have won that game type of thing. 50-50 game. Seahawks kind of dominate. The score would even indicate that it was kind of close because that was 16-3, I believe, was the final score. And the Seahawks had more opportunity to score than that. However, the fact that those games were 17 weeks apart and now you're getting them 2 weeks apart, these games. And listen, this team is banged up. I don't think they're going to get a 16-3 type of game. I actually picked the Eagles last week and thought that it's like, all right, if the Seahawks defense did that to him, we know the Eagles defense is at least physical. Regardless of what the offense looks like, the defense should be able to shut them down. They kind of did what they wanted. And Seattle's a tougher place than Philadelphia to play, which is also tough, but Seattle's tougher, allegedly. And Brock Purdy's 8-0. And Brock Purdy's playing well. And oh, by the way, Sam Darnold has an oblique injury, one of the worst injuries you can have as a QB. I was already going to take the Niners to cover. I'm taking the Niners to win. Both of these games,
Hell
by the
yeah.
way, Week 1 and Week 18, both low-scoring games. I don't see why that wouldn't continue. I'm not sure what the weather is, but I don't see why that wouldn't continue. You add that Sam Darnold, who has been, as we've mentioned, like more than pretty good, both for the Vikings and the Seahawks. Oblique injury on top of facing Robert Saleh, on top of facing another divisional rival after facing them 2 weeks ago. Would you be shocked if just one pick? You shocked if Sam Darnold throws one pick tomorrow?
Nope, I wouldn't be shocked if he threw 3 of them.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. And if he throws one, that's all it takes. We saw in that Rams game, I don't know if that was week 8, week 10, whatever that was, when he threw 4 interceptions, man. I've never seen someone so shaky in a midseason game. I could see if that was week 16, but man, he was shaky. And if he throws one and the Niners can put up any sort of points, if they can get free, like if you can get a great game out of McCaffrey, which you did not get in that week 18 game, by the way. And I know this Kittle injury, it's a huge blow. I think they played 4 games, if not more, without him this year. And yes, that's a blow, but guess what? That's only going to mean more CMC, more Pearsall, more Jawan Jennings. What's my man's name? Demarcus Robinson. That's the one that got
Yep.
loose for 2 big bombs last week. Like,
Yep.
Shanahan's going to scheme it
Opens
up.
up
Like,
the game. Yeah.
at the least, this is going to be a close game. And hey, I know Shanahan has this record where it's like down 7 points in the fourth quarter. He's only won one game in his career, which I don't even know how that's possible. But I'm kind of the mindset too, man. If this game's close with 2 minutes left, I'm a little more comfortable with Purdy. Um, and the Niners aren't going to be afraid at all. I think this is just another game for them, especially with it going to Seattle. They're going to be comfortable. Um, I don't see a scenario where they only score 3 points or only get out of there with field goals. So if they're scoring the ball, obviously Seattle's going to have to score back, needless to say. And an oblique injury is no joke. So, I'm going to give you 21-20. Niners over the Seahawks, field goal win. Have you heard about this electromagnetic theory? You heard about this?
Almost sent it to you. Yeah.
Um, as I said that, my freaking Siri popped up. They thought I said Siri, but yeah, wild. It's wild. I just did my research on it a tiny bit, tiny bit, and I saw someone say that they've actually been practicing here since like 2003, if not since before 2003. So maybe it's all about nothing, but there's been a lot of ligament and tendon injuries. Like the sauce is there if you want to really make a case, or if there's anything legal they can go with. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. What do you think about this story?
I thought it was an interesting, like, we're kind of like, I haven't read any articles that would confirm that, like, a power plant like that, the electromagnetic fields would degrade ligaments. I haven't read anything like to confirm that that's true. So somebody could just be like grasping, just trying to like connect the dots when there really aren't dots to connect. Um, but if there was like a long-term research study that came out and they said, yeah, that's very true. All these people that work at these power plants always report knee pain and hip pain and this stuff like that, and it would make total sense because it's literally adjacent to their practice field, so they are literally right next to it the entire time. Um, you would think a franchise valued at $8 billion probably at this point would be able to maybe move that field an acre to the right a little bit or something like that. But I don't know.
I saw a clip before this podcast of Gilbert Arenas. Have you seen his basketball podcast?
I have not, no.
He's got a football podcast actually with Skip Bayless and Aqib Talib. I think Gerald McCoy's on there. It's really good, actually. I recommend it. And they were interviewing a guy that apparently did a study on this practice facility, or he said he couldn't get into the facility or like directly around it, but he said he did some sort of test that could at least reach that area. And he said there was elevated levels, and he claims this would make tendons and ligaments weaker. I don't understand all that. I wonder if that would be like, would that be the case for people who like live around there? Would that be the case for the people who like just work at the building? Like I want to hear much more about this because it's probably one of the weirder stories I've heard in quite a while. In quite a while, because people seem to really actually genuinely believe it. So, what was your score again for this game? By the way, you said okay, you pushed. That's right. You said Seahawks by
2013.
7.
Yeah.
I do think, slight spoiler alert, I think all 4 of these games are going to be good games. Much like last week where we got, 4 out of 6 were close games. I think all 4 of these are going to be close games. Moving on to my team, 3 o'clock Sunday, Pats hosting the Texans. Texans will be without Nico Collins. Pats will be with Christian Gonzalez. Pats are favored by 3. Over-under in this game is 40.5. Tim, how do you envision this game going? Who do you think gets the victory?
The Nico news is like actually
time
massive.
out. I got a quick question before you go.
Mm-hmm.
Did you and Keenan was this the situation you tried to bet Keenan on? Was you tried to bet him on the Ravens game? That was like week 16. But were you guys trying to bet about championship weekend, whether the Patriots be playing on championship weekend?
We made a bet that the Patriots, Keenan has bet that the Patriots will go to the Super Bowl this year. He will be the AFC representative. And
you guys did shake on this.
We shook over the air. It's on camera. There's a verbal agreement. That's a contract, Keenan. Sorry. I'll take you to court. Uh,
I still
so
haven't gotten
yeah,
my pay from 2 years ago, Keith.
mm, this man, this man. Uh, this game is like one of the toughest ones to pick for me.
Mm,
The Nico news is like actually huge. I saw another stat that said when CJ Stroud targets Nico Collins, he has like a 92 QBR, and that's like the PFF QBR, not like the one that goes to 158.3. I think that's on a scale of 100. So like he's really good when he targets Nico Collins. He's like a 60 when he targets anybody not named Nico Collins on the team. They got a big game out of Christian Kirk last week.
that they did.
I don't know if lightning strikes twice here. I don't think so. Um, it all makes me lean Patriots. Like I think the offense is better. I don't think the defense is as good, but good enough to stop the Texans offense. And they're at home, so like I want to take the Patriots, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if the Texans just come out there and win. I think the Texans have done this now 3 years in a row, where they make the playoffs, they win a game that a lot of people pick them to lose, and then they lose in the next round. So I think it's likely that it just happens again. So I'm going to take the Patriots here against my will. I'm going to be rooting for the Texans. I meant to do a tier list of teams that of the playoff teams, and rank them on how much I would enjoy watching them win a Super Bowl.
Mm.
Um, I would have had Philly at the bottom, and then I would have had the Patriots right above them. Um, because I already watched a Patriots dynasty. I don't want another one, so let's just take them out now. So I'll be rooting for Houston. Um, it would be great to see Houston. I honestly think they could beat whoever comes out of the other side there too. So the defense is actually legit, and it does line up with they have a great pass rush. Last week, Patriots offensive line didn't look great. Like there were definitely plays where they were getting to him, so they could just wreck the game from that position alone, and that wouldn't surprise me at all. And then they have a great secondary too. So like, this is why it's so tough to pick it. I'm gonna take the Patriots, and I'll take it really boring. 16-13.
Tim, the only thing I would add to what you said, I agree with every single thing you said. The one thing I would say that goes in the Texans' favor is, yeah, Patriots obviously ended up winning. Drake May obviously led them to the win. And the first half wasn't great. Second half was kind of whatever. He did what he needed to do to win. We still don't actually know if he's a good playoff quarterback. We know he's a great quarterback. We know he's a great quarterback in the regular season now. We don't know what it's going to look like as the lights get a little brighter, which they will. Wild card weekend, a divisional weekend, it's that much brighter. And we know that, whether it's rookie quarterbacks, second-year quarterbacks, really any quarterback, even if you're a vet, your first start in the playoffs usually doesn't go great. We saw that. Now, how does the second one look? The Chargers held up pretty well for being as banged up as they were. Their defense gave the Pats stuff problems. And like you said, this Texans team could argue it's the best defense in the entire league. Sometimes that's all you need to win. And here's the big thing. I'm a big DeMeco Ryans guy. I think he's one of the better coaches in the league. If they just decide, and I know the Patriots got a good run defense, but if they just decide, like, all right, Woody Marks, we're going to like ride this out and go full game manager with CJ, and he actually gets success there, and they shorten the game. And if they're, which is hard to say because the offensive line's the weakness of this offense now, but if they were to get success there and shorten the game, then yeah, it's absolutely anyone's game. And I still think it's anyone's game, but I'm with you. I kind of lean Patriots. Let me get this out of the way so I don't sound insane. I'm not saying I'm rooting against the Patriots at all. But like I've been asked a ton, especially since they've been on this run, like, oh, like you must be ecstatic that your Patriots are doing well. And I'm like, yeah, I am, but like I've said it on the podcast. I don't really know what to expect with this team. I wouldn't have been surprised if they lost last week, the Chargers. Now we get the Texans, and it's without Nico. Exactly like you said, man. Everything's lined up. I'm not necessarily ready to be friggin' like cheering my heart out for a Patriots team versus the Bills next week. Or if it's the Broncos, if the Patriots win, they face the Broncos and it's like ready made for a Super Bowl. I don't know if my heart's ready for that yet. I was kind of prepared to be all in next year. So I'm not saying I'm rooting against them, but I am saying like it wouldn't break my heart if they lost. I sound insane saying this out loud. I understand that, but hey, it is what it is. I agree with you. I think it's going to be low scoring. I think it's going to be ugly. You said 16-13, which is also a push, by the way, if we're going with that. I'm going to say
Flip it. I'm
going
taking
Texans.
Houston.
Going
I'm
Texans.
taking Houston. I can't get behind the Patriots. I can't. I gotta go Houston.
Man, I almost want to go with you. Because this is the best defense by far that the Pats have played. Chargers last week was one of the better defenses. Like they're just well coached in general, but they can't kind of like take your heart away like the Texans can. I'm trying to think like off the top of my head, who is the last best defense the Pats played? I can't even think. Maybe the Ravens, honestly, and they were super banged up, but at that time, like they were at least playing well. Let me go back in the archives before I make my pick here. Because I am 50-50. I would not be shocked here if the Texans win. Let's see. Chargers, Miami, Jets, Baltimore, Buffalo, Giants, Cincinnati,
Browns.
Jets, Tampa, Atlanta. Probably Atlanta was the last. Oh, they played Cleveland the week before Atlanta, and they torched Cleveland. So we're talking week 8. They played Cleveland. So they haven't faced a ton of great defenses here.
Honestly, I always bring up how it was like an easy schedule, but looking back on it, I'm like, yeah, I understand why they won 14 games. Like this was a really, really easy schedule.
It fell the right way for them. Yeah, and going through, I mean, there's not really many close games here either. That Buffalo game was a thriller. Baltimore, Lamar gets hurt. They beat Cincinnati by 6. That was a weird game. Oh, yeah. Look, I mean, I think the Pats are the real deal. Don't get me wrong. I don't think they're a fake team by any means. I think they're too well coached to be fake. I'm gonna go. You're flipping. You go 16-13 Texans. I'm
Yes,
gonna
sir.
go. I'm gonna pick it ugly too. I do think the Texans cover. I'm gonna say 15-14 Pats. I'm gonna ride or die with my team. If you want to say that's a cop out, because I'm almost kind of picking the Texans too, fine. But I'm gonna roll with the Pats. I do think they get it done. That being said, that's the only real way to victory, though, I see, because I don't see a Christian Kirk renaissance 2 weeks in a row. I don't see what would it be Dalton Schultz going off. Like it'd be much different if they had Tank Dell this season, which they won't have, but they'll have him next year. The only real way is if Woody Marks gets off, then okay, then you got the Pats on their heels on offense and defense. But other than that, man, I think it's going to be a disgusting game. But I guess there's also a world where Drake May goes off and maybe it is a double-digit score game. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Last game we have, this game. You know what? I think this game fascinates me the most out of all 4. I said I love the Broncos-Bills game. I love the Seahawks and Niners, but this low-key might be my favorite. Rams going to Chicago. Rams are favored by 3.5. Part of me still doesn't understand how the Bears are in the playoffs. Part of me doesn't even understand how they're in the divisional round, to be honest with you. But they are hosting the Rams, who are one of the favorites, obviously, to win the Super Bowl. Rams didn't look great last week with the Panthers, or we could say the Panthers looked exceptional against the Rams, whatever way you want to put that. Tim, I'll let you go before I get into my thoughts on this game. How do you feel about this game? Are you going to pick against the Rams? Because I know you said you're not going to pick them for the Super Bowl. Do you think this is the week they cough it up?
I'm gonna pick against them, but it's like so weird. I am more confident in the Rams winning than the Bears, but like the Bears just want to play chaos, and the Rams have been completely on board with playing chaos this year, and it hasn't really worked out for them in quite a few of those. I think we get a crazy game here. Like take the over on 63 points. I think is what we're getting here. So it's going to be just back and forth. Like I said last week, I think the Panthers kind of exposed the Rams a little bit defensively, And if anybody can do it, Ben Johnson can do it. This running game and the pass attack has been pretty good recently. So I'm going with the Bears. This was like a last second switch. Coming into this pod, I was definitely taking the Rams, but I'm going with the Bears 35-32.
It's crazy because few ways to go about this, all right? I've seen a couple of reports that like the weather's going to be like horrible tomorrow. Like if not snowy, but like super cold. I just looked, it says it's going to be like 17 degrees. That doesn't sound too bad. We
Is there
even
wind
talked,
chill? I thought that's what they were bringing up, was the wind was going to get it down below zero.
they said this is the feels like, but honestly, man, the regular weather app on Apple is usually like far off from like AccuWeather's the other one I use. And AccuWeather, so let me check AccuWeather while we're talking here. We talked the other day, you, Keenan, and I. We were talking about, shouts to Keenan, by the way. We talked about Chicago, Illinois. We talked about Stafford playing in the NFC North and how he's played in cold weather. Played in cold weather in that Philadelphia game last year. Treacherous snow in the second half. And how we aren't really too afraid of him playing in cold weather because he played in a cold weather division most of his career. You brought up some stats. I got some Matt Stafford stats for you. His last 10 games outside in rain or snow, guess his record, 10 games.
1-9.
You got it. You heard
Hell
this stat
yeah.
too?
I heard just that stat. I didn't hear
Okay.
anything other than that. Just the 1-9 part.
So 1-9 and 16 touchdowns, 11 picks. So could be worse.
Ugh.
Not the worst,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
not
good.
average for Stafford either. You know, that's below his what we're used to. So you couple that with, again, this team that loves playing in chaos, that despite whatever weather we get tomorrow, I kind of agree with you. I don't see a world where there's not points. I don't see this being a game where it's like 20-16 just because it's cold. So yeah, if there was two teams, especially this Bears team, which again makes no fucking sense, they're incapable of playing a regular game. Yeah, I could see this being 10 below and it's still a friggin' 30-28, whichever way you want to call it. All right, so AccuWeather tomorrow night, Saturday night. Okay, they got the real feel. All right. I'm never looking at the Apple app again because they had it at 17 degrees tomorrow. They got it at -6 with 23 mile per hour wind gusts.
Yeah,
Some
Apple's
snow.
always let me down every single time. It'll be like, no, it's this temperature outside, and I get in my car, and my car's like, nah, dude, it's 20 degrees colder.
Way off. All that being said, man, I mean, I haven't really got into the analysis of it. I kind of can't imagine Chicago losing tomorrow. It just does not, or excuse me, Sunday. Does not seem like their season's going to end. The NFL kind of gave the Rams a bone here, both the Chicago Rams both the Chicago Bears and the Rams, by giving them 8 days rest. But I think that's more beneficial to, the older QB here. This would be a 50-50 game in the regular season to me. Rams going to Chicago in cold weather. You couple that with the playoffs, you couple that with real momentum that the Chicago Bears, who, again, not sure how they're here, but they just want to play in chaos. They want to make things weird. I think that's what it's going to be on Sunday night. And I think it's going to be high scoring. What was your score?
35-32.
Let's go 31-28. I'm going the Bears too. I just can't pick against them. For whatever reason, Tim, I have this vision that like once we leave here about 9:30 Sunday night, once we shut off the game, like it's going to be the Bears celebrating. It's going to be the crowd going wild. And then they'll be able to host a game next week against the Niners, which would be crazy because we got a regular season classic towards the end of the season between those two teams. I don't know. And I could also see exactly what we talk about, a high scoring game, and the Rams, if they got it last, they score. Here's the thing with the Rams, not in love with their kicker. You need a good kicker in cold weather games like this. Can he make big kicks in the clutch in cold weather when it matters? We'll see. I kind of bet against it. I kind of would take the Bears kicker over him when it comes down to it. I do think this is going to be a wild game. Go ahead.
I had seen a crazy stat, and I didn't think it was real, so I had to kind of like go look. The Chicago Bears have scored the most points in the fourth quarter of any team. They're number one. And it's by like 15 points. They've scored 173 of their points this year in the fourth quarter.
That's
Um,
nuts.
that's just what they do. That's just when they get going is late. And they've had like what, like 7 game-winning drives on like the last drive of the game, I think, or something like that this year. Like that's just maybe this is where their luck runs out. But there's any team that can do it. It's Chicago.
And I want to say one of those stats, like one of the come behind stats, like the most in NFL history or the most in like 50 years. I feel like I could be making that up, but I feel like one of those stats is crazy like that as well. Um, yeah, man. So I'm going Bills, I'm going Niners, I'm going Bears, and I'm going Pats. Uh, and maybe this is completely chalk. Who knows? Maybe it's completely underdogs. Who knows? You could tell me about any outcome, but I do think all these games are going to be close. I don't see any way, really, especially with this weather. I don't see any way Rams Bears is a blowout in either fashion, whether it's the Bears blowing the Rams out or the Rams blowing Chicago out on the road. I think the only one I could truly, truly, truly see getting out of hand is if my Patriots pulled away from the Texans, kind of in the same way that they pulled away against the Steelers. That's really it. But I think we're going to get four really good games, maybe two classics out of the four. Um, yeah, I think they're all going to be fantastic. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
I love how the last few years the league has been like too predictable, where it's just
Mhm.
like, yeah, just put the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, hell, put them in the Super Bowl. This year they just whoever wrote this script, man, they just cranked up the chaos knob all the way, and they're like, fuck it. All the good teams, they're bad now, and all the bad teams, let's make them like championship level teams. I don't care. Like the amount of money the odds if you were to just parlay division winners and get it all correct would have been like
Oh my god.
millions, like crazy.
Yeah, yeah. When you combine, because the Bears, I don't know if they would have had the worst odds, but they definitely would have had the third
Oh,
worst
they
at
were
the
they were
least,
definitely
at
the
the
worst. I
most.
remember looking at it.
Really, they were behind
Um,
the Vikings.
yep, and then they were also like the Commanders were definitely not projected to be that bad. Um, I don't think anybody had the Patriots as the one or two. I think they would have been third, maybe.
Imagine if you just did a Patriots, Panthers, and Bears divisional winner parlay. Like
Yeah,
you would get an insane
exactly.
payout for not much. Maybe that's what
There's
we
like
should do next year is just pick three random divisions and just be like, all right, we'll take whoever like is projected third and see what happens.
we're taking the Saints, we're taking the Vikings, and then we're taking
Take the
the
Giants.
yeah. Honestly, it that wouldn't be or the Cowboys either way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
plus 20,000 odds or whatever.
Because Philly's gonna be favored for
Yep,
sure. I mean, unless something crazy happens in the draft for all these teams, but you can almost project Philly and who the hell was I just thinking of? Like AFC South would be interesting too. Colts are going to take a hit, but I wonder who will be favored between the Texans and the Jags next year. Because the Texans should, if Tank Dell can come back any sort of healthy, because his injury was pretty bad, but if he can give them anything, or if they can even draft a guy or two to help CJ
I
Stroud out,
think it's hard to know right now because like if the Texans go to the Super Bowl, their odds change completely. I think it's likely that the Jags would be favored, and it wouldn't be that heavy. It would still be like plus money with the Texans right behind them.
I rarely get like insane predictions right. You know what I mean? Like you've had a few Tim Stradamus moments on here. I was thinking today because it looks like John Morant might get traded. Um, I was thinking, like, I don't know if you saw the clip a couple years ago where they asked him about like how they're gonna do in the Western Conference, and he's like, "We're good in the West." And literally everything's gone downhill since then. And I remember me and Keenan were talking about it, and I'm like, "Hey, man, basketball gods, like karma's real. Like that's gonna come back and bite you." I thought that meant like maybe them just getting a 7 or 8 seed. I didn't realize his whole career would go downhill since then. I was just
Like I,
thinking,
it's like
what's
I
up?
just thought they were going to lose to the Nuggets in the first round. I didn't think he would just not be able to play basketball anymore for a certain amount of time, and then
Dude, literally, another fun fact if you want one, dude's literally hasn't played 7 games in a row in 3 seasons. It's crazy. Um,
yeah,
but I was just thinking, talking about the Texans, if they were to win the game and the Broncos were to win the game, I would take responsibility for that because I said at one point to you and Keenan, like, oh, I need a jail ball game this year. Like, it would have to involve the Texans and maybe the Eagles, and Keenan's like, oh, yeah, if we got Texans Broncos, I don't want that in the AFC Championship game, though. I do not want to see that slop in the AFC Championship game. I
It
would
would
be
be
heavily
in
rooting for the Texans, I think, but
Yeah, me too. It would be in Denver, which also a tough place to play. Like that would be like a 6-5 game. It would be a score that nobody ever predicts. Absolutely.
man. Any other predictions before we sign out of here?
No, but I do want to look back at the beginning of the year. You asked for bold predictions.
Mm-hmm.
One of them that I made was that there would be 10 edge rushers to get to 15 sacks this year. We didn't get
I
10. I
remember that.
think we had 6 get to 12.5 or more. But there were like 16 that had double digit sacks this year. So I was
Really?
like on par with that there would be a lot of sacks this year. Just I thought it would be a little bit more top end heavy.
Let me see if I can find my bold predictions and see if any came true. I remember I doubled down on one. Was this from this year? Okay, that was 2024. I remember I doubled down on one that I had, I think 2 seasons ago, and I said it for this year. I brought it back. I said there would be a benches clearing brawl in the NFL. We unfortunately did not get that. Hold on, let me see. NFL.
We were pretty close though. I remember the first year you said that like the Chiefs Raiders game going into halftime, there was like a 60% benches clearing brawl. But yeah,
I might have missed that one.
I think it was on that thanks or the Black Friday game or something like that.
Listen, this was the Warner Brothers podcast. You heard it from me and Tim. These are going to be fantastic games. Tune back in with us next week when we review these games, and go over the AFC and NFC championship games. Hopefully we do not get Texans Broncos. We do not want jail ball. But of course, if it happens, we'll watch. Tim, do you have a best bet for the weekend before we go?
I like Sam Darnold to throw a pick. I really, really do. When you brought that up earlier, I was like, yeah, no, that's pretty much going to happen. One that I will take, I think I think Kenneth Walker's rushing yards line is set at like 60.5.
Mm-hmm.
If the game goes the way I think it's going to go, they're going to be running him a lot in the fourth quarter, trying to chew clock against a weak defense. He should go over 60. He can break one or two and get there on his own. So I do like whatever his rushing prop is. Just take the over on the yards.
Can I interest you in Sam Darnold 2 picks?
Mm, that's what the 49ers really need. Like you said, if he throws one pick, they're in the game. If he throws two, man, and he kills drives like red zone picks, that's pretty much wraps. The 49ers will capitalize. So I would be interested.
I'm going to go with my best bet. Niners +7. I think that's too many points. I get the reason for the line, but you add Pearsall to that offense. You add like as heavy of a dose as you possibly can of CMC. That's going to be tough. And he was pretty banged up in that Week 18 game, and he seems a bit healthier. So I'm going to roll with that. Tim, this was a lot of fun. Can't wait to review these games. This was the Warner Brothers podcast. Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. Hit us up. Keep commenting. Keep interacting. We love it. We're out of here.